Hello, dear friends. Welcome to the evening with Ananda India Monks. We usually have this webinar every alternate week, and we discuss some quotes from the Autobiography of a Yogi Daily Wisdom app. You can get that app from the Google Play Store. It has quotes from the Autobiography of a Yogi for different each day of the week, and it's just a daily inspiration you get to know. So we'll begin with a chant. Small. We will begin with few chants, a small meditation, and then we will have a discussion. This is Brahmachari Vineet with me, and I'm Ramesh. So we'll chant. This chant I've chosen right now is called I Am Om. Presence I am, all pervading I am, all blessed I am. Oh, come to me, come to me, oh, come. Divine Mother, come to me, come to me, oh, come to me. I am home, I am home, I am home, I am home. Omnipresence, I am home. All pervading, I am home. All blessed, I am home. Home, come to me, come to me, come to me. Divine Mother, come to me, come to me. I am home, I am home. Omnipresence I am, all pervading I am, all blessed I am. Om, come, come to me, come to me. Divine Mother, come. Omnipresence I am, all pervading I am, all blessed I am. Om, come to me, come to me, oh, come to me. Divine Mother, come to me, come to me, oh, come to me. I am home, I am home. Omnipresence I am, all pervading I am, all blessed I am. Om, come to me, come to me, oh, come to me. Divine Mother, come to me, come to me. I am home, I am home, I am home, I am home. presence I am home. All pervading I am home. All blessing I am home. Divine Mother, come to Let us pray. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, Friend, beloved God, great masters of self-realization, we bow to you all. Divine Mother, we are your children. Help us to feel the universal brotherhood between all of us. May we do away with all prejudices. May we see in each other our own true reality. May we realize that we are all brothers in God, in joy. Om. Who tells me how I am? Oh, my mother divine. Who tells me how I am? Oh, my mother divine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy body do shine. Who tells me thou art thine? Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Who tells me thou art God? Oh, my divine. Who tells me thou art God? Oh, my divine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Who tells me thou art God? Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Who tells me thou art God? Oh, my mother divine. Who tells me thou art God? Oh, my mother divine. Suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Who tells me thou art God? Oh, my mother divine. Who tells me thou art God? Oh, my mother divine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Thousands of suns and moons from thy glory do shine. Who tells me thou art God? Oh, my mother divine. thousands of suns from the morning illusion, thousands of suns from the morning illusion. Thousands of suns from the morning illusion, thousands of suns from the
We'll take this next chant into meditation. We'll meditate for about 12 minutes before we get into the satsang. This is a very simple chant, and the words are very simple. It's reveal thyself. When you chant, pay your attention at the point between the two eyebrows, calling out to God, to Divine Mother, to your Guru, asking them to reveal thyself. Reveal thyself. Let's chant together.
Reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself. Sorry. Reveal thyself, 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 reveal Reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself. Thyself, reveal 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 thyself, thyself, reveal 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 thyself. Reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself, reveal thyself,
Let's sit up straight. Let's inhale and tense the whole body with a double breath. Exhale and relax. One more time. Exhale. Now, this time, as you inhale and exhale, visualize all the tensions of the day as you're relaxing, letting them go, and just having your gaze at the point between the eyebrows. Let's inhale. Exhale all the tensions and relax. Your gaze is uplifted, chin parallel to the ground. Let's meditate now. Hello, friends. Welcome again to today's webinar on the wisdom from the autobiography of a yogi. My name is Brahmachari Vineet, and with us is also Brahmachari Ramesh. And just in case you joined during the meditation, I thought we could introduce ourselves again. And Ramesh had already mentioned at the beginning of this webinar that we'll be sharing quotes from an app which is available on the Play Store, which is the Autobiography of a Yogi app, where there are select quotes for each day. And before I thought I would go into the quote itself, I thought I'll just share a little bit that during this webinar, what happens is we do these webinars every alternate Friday. So we basically share a few quotes from the previous week until Friday, and then a few quotes from till the next week Friday, so that we cover almost 14 days in essence. But if there is something which inspires you to read this wonderful book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and if you haven't read it yet, pick the book. And if you've already read it and you feel inspired, I have many friends who just make it a point to read the book just before going to bed, the book Autobiography. And if it's not possible for you to read the whole book I mean, not the whole book, but a part of the book every day, why not tune into the app? And it's very nice to tune into the consciousness of a great master on a day-to-day basis. And Yogananda ji, he also said that do something new every day. So with this app, maybe you get a quote every day and you see, today Yogananda ji is talking about miracles. Let me see something which is miraculous in my life, and you can apply it in your day-to-day life. If Yogananda ji, let's say in one of those saying is talking about music, you can say, let me learn a new chant today, or a new piece of music from Swami Kriyananda, or gain some knowledge. So basically just, not just reading and saying, I can do this, but also applying it actively in your life. I myself have found that when I read a quote and I say, okay, I'll apply it, it doesn't really work. But if I can think of some creative way where I can just intertwine it in my day-to-day life, it kind of works more, and we can, say we can bring spirituality into daily life. With that, I would like to read the first quote for this webinar. This is from November 27. It says, this is from the chapter Rama is raised from the dead, for those of you who have read the book. And it says, self-realized masters in every century have hallowed her soil. Her soil here indicates India. Modern Christ-like sages like Lahiri Mahashay and his disciple Sri Yukteswar rise up to proclaim the science of yoga is more vital than any material advances to man's happiness and to a nation's longevity. Let me just repeat the last line. The science of yoga is more vital than any material advances to man's happiness and to a nation's longevity. Now, when we read that for the first time, we're like, of course, yoga is more essential than anything else for those of us who are on the spiritual path. And for those who are not, one might wonder that how is it more vital? Isn't it more important that a nation thrives? Is it not more important that we prosper materially? Well, yes, it is important, but it is not in any way taking the space of yoga itself, because if you have read the book Autobiography again, but I would like to just share a few incidents in the book which happened. Like there are incidents where Sri Yukteswarji, after he is dead, he materializes in his own body, same body after he's dead in front of his disciple Yogananda ji. There are stories where people are raised from the dead. This is from that chapter. Rama is raised from the dead, who was a disciple of Lahiri Mahasaya. In this book, it is mentioned. And one wonders, like, how far can material things advance anyways? Of course, there is advancement in technology. There are new things which come up almost every day, and one can't really keep up with those things. But these yogis, the self-realized masters, they are way beyond that. They don't, some things are eternal, as we say, and those things don't change. So the yogis who have realized that oneness with God, and the ones who know how, if you've read the chapter the law of miracles, who know how this universe operates, they can do a few things here and there, and it doesn't matter what material advances are happening around or how much a nation is prospering. Just to share a story, that there was a disciple of Yogananda ji, Oliver Black, and he was once at the ashram and it was pouring rain, just pouring rain. And Yogananda ji had summoned one of the monks, had told one of the monks to call Oliver Black and tell him that let's go for a ride. And when the monk knocked on the door of Oliver Black, and Oliver Black, when he told it to Oliver Black that, Master would like to come for a ride with you, he was just shocked. Like, it's raining, you can't even see outside the window. What can we do? But he thought, yes, Master knows best. And so he, put up his attire of all the raincoats and the umbrella. And the moment he stepped out, it was completely not raining, one might say. It didn't look like it was raining at all. The sky was, completely clear. The sun was shining. One might imagine at least the ground should be wet or the car around should be wet in which they were going to drive. Everything dry, pitch dry. And the masters can just change the dream in just an instant. And then Master lovingly looked at Oliver Black and he said, just for you, Oliver. And so how long, we can't some. And the reason why I think about material advances or let's look at even our problems in life or issues we have to deal with or office issues. We think, okay, fine, if I get this, I'll prosper this way. If I finish this will happen. Or if I invent this, the nation will prosper. Or if I do this, my home will prosper. But then doesn't the Bible say, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things shall be added on to you. Now, I have listened to these words many times, and I've felt inspired during satsangs in this. Yes, of course, happiness cannot be found in outward things, but when it comes to applying it, I have many times found that, I have to finish this project first. Meditation, I'll do a little later, but I'll work on finishing this project. Oh, I have to answer this call first. I have to do this first. Well, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things shall be added unto you. Yogananda ji said that you can burn all the books on the science of yoga, but people will still rediscover it because it is the essence of all that is. And I'm paraphrasing it from the book, of course. But then what does it mean in our day to day life? Again, just taking that, you read this quote, what does it mean? Just imagine, I was just thinking, if I get into meditation reading this quote, I'm not going to let my mind wander, or I'm not going to delay my meditation or my spiritual practices. My focus is going to be really, really important, that yoga is vital, that union with God is vital. And what are we doing when we are practicing any technique we know, Hong So, Kriya, energization? We are affirming that happiness lies not outside but inside. We are driving the life force inside and offering it up to the divine. So let's, in that way, apply these little things in our daily life. And let's see that how we can see that this yoga, this beautiful science of yoga, which has been given to us in the form of techniques to all of us, how we can apply it in our life and advance in various ways. And one important thing I have found, that when I focus on first things first, as Swamiji would say, on my meditation, the rest of my day goes well and everything else goes well. You might find your meetings go fine, your daily household chores go fine, the thing which you weren't prepared for might have been postponed. So just try it. And with that, I would pass it on to Ramesh.
That was great.
Okay.
Sing on the microphone. So, hello everyone again. It's a joy always to speak about the autobiography of a yogi because it's such a wonderful book. You never tire out of it. And since Vinit started from a quote which was about the longevity of nations by yogis, the quote which I selected is from December 5, and it reads like this. Consulting history, one may reasonably state that the problems of mankind have not been solved by the use of brute force. World War I produced a world-chilling snowball of war karma that swelled into World War II. Only the warmth of brotherhood can melt the present colossal snowball of war karma, which may otherwise grow into World War III. Now, that is a scary thing. that if we don't have world brotherhood right now, Master Paramahansa Yogananda is saying that the war karma of that World War II, the momentum of that can actually take us into World War III if we refuse to learn from history. And if we really look nowadays around how nations are doing, how they deal with each other, is there more harmony or is there more greed? And we see that the signs are not really that promising, but we don't need to get scared about it because many hands make a miracle. If we really want, Master has given us the hint there that only the warmth of brotherhood can melt that karma. And how do we bring about that brotherhood? Swami Kriyananda, in his lifetime as King Henry, strived to bring harmony. It was like almost Kali Yuga, which was a material age, and people were more matter bound, more war bound. Even in those ages, he strived to bring harmony, and he had actually, unknown in that period, brought about 3 decades of peace. How? He actually laid out rules, enforced them, and took personal responsibility for maintaining harmony. He laid out law. And what we have observed in history is that whenever there are not wars and longer periods of peace, nations tend to prosper. People tend to prosper. They get to use their resources for better and more subtle and harmonious music, arts, professions, and in general, the world itself grows more in light. But when there is wars going on, what happens is all the resources of the country get towards just survival. And in those cases, it's very difficult. But there is other point to it too. Master Paramahansa Yogananda said that he came during a period of 2 world wars in America because in those during that time there was so much suffering that that suffering forced people to look to the light. And in that looking to the light, people actually progressed much more spiritually. Now let's come down to the basics, like how do we develop this brotherhood? We can't change the world without, of course, changing ourselves. And how do we change ourselves? First of all, the reason I chose the chant I am Om is there's an underlying unity between all of us. Why is there underlying unity? You might have observed that if you're seeing someone and the person gets hurt mentally, emotionally, or even physically, somehow, somewhere you feel the pain to some extent, you feel sorry for that person. It seems like a part of you has got hurt there. And there is a reality to that, isn't it? We all are part of one reality. So if one person is affected, we all are affected. If one person is happy, we all are happy. That way, we can actually relate using that thread and see a divine in all brothers and sisters in God. And how best to do that? If we just think about ourselves, we become contracting, and but when we try to help others, we forget our own self, and we kind of expand. And it's not an egoic expansion, but it is expansion of sympathy, expansion of kindness. We can gift even a gift of smile to others while walking on the road, or just having a joyful, cheerful attitude every now and then helps lighten up matters. Because Paramahansa Yogananda ji said that you can't drive out darkness with by beating it with a stick. You have to turn on the lights, and to turn on that light, we have to bring on that light in ourselves. And another thing which I wanted to add was about harmony, because brotherhood comes from harmony, and we try to bring about brotherhood in, like, whenever there are group projects, we endeavor that each and every one nuts and bolts work together to produce the machine. I had this experience in football, which I had a chance to learn professionally, that in a team of say 11 players, each and every player has some defined roles and responsibilities. But the team which succeeds is not the one with the one best player, but the team which succeeds is the one which has all cogs working together. Even if all the players are average in their own skill set, if they learn to be harmonious with each other, cooperate with each other, have a spirit of joy in doing it all together, they are much more likely to succeed. And similarly, Swami Kriyananda ji said the secret to Ananda's success, which is a spiritual community started like 50 years ago in California, the secret to it was harmony. He actually said that people learned kindness, and visitors used to say that they didn't find one person who was unkind at Ananda. Swami Kriyananda used to put it like that if in a community of 1,000 people, if you aim to cooperate and see everyone as your friend, you will have 999 friends. But if you just go in a spirit of competition and want everything for your own self contractively, you will have 999 enemies. So it's up to us to decide what we want with it. Because as Paramahansa Yogananda ji zoomed out and said that only the warmth of brotherhood can reduce the colossal karma of which can actually lead to World War III. But we need not fear, because if our hearts are at the right place, God will always help us. With that, I will move to Vineet.
Thank you, Ramesh. Now, the next few quotes which I'll be sharing is on the topic of renunciation. And sometimes when one hears the word renunciation, it goes like, oh, this is going to be serious. But no, this one is a rather humorous one. And let's read it together and see what Master writes here. A beggar cannot renounce wealth. If a man laments, my business has failed, my wife has left me, I'll renounce all and enter a monastery. To what worldly sacrifice is he referring? He did not renounce wealth and love, they renounced him. So here you see an example of a man who says, okay, I've lost my business, I've lost my wife, I've lost everything, and now I'll enter a monastery and renounce everything. Well, one thing is that that is not true renunciation. What is true renunciation then? Well, you can't renounce something which you don't have. And in this case, this man didn't have anything. He was hopeless in life, and what was there to renounce even? And there's a very beautiful affirmation which we do sometimes here at the monastery. It's called Affirmation for Psychological Success, and it is in the book Affirmations for Self-Healing. Scientific Healing Affirmations by Paramhansa Yogananda ji. And in that beautiful affirmation, it's a long affirmation, but there's one beautiful line which says, teach me to own again, oh, own again, my matter, soul, mind, and brain, so that I may offer them to thee. Now, it's true, whatever we have in our life is all belonging to God. Nothing is really ours. But for a person who doesn't, people who have renounced anything in life, and who are saints, who are saintly people, or even those in this line of gurus, take it from Mahavatar Babaji till Paramhans Yogananda ji, they are all ones with dynamic will and energy. Yogananda ji once said that, and this was during the times of depression when he was in America during the 1930s, that if I did not have a job, I will churn the ether until I find a job. Now, such is the dynamism they had. It wasn't like, oh, I can't do this, I was a failure at this, I have nothing better to do, let me get into a monastery. No, they had missions in life, they had a great will and a great energy through which a worldwide movement started. Now, people know of Kriya Yoga in the West because Yogananda ji started it there through a great worldwide mission. And it is not like, oh, okay, I'm no good, let me just go and do. In fact, he was so energetic, he was so dynamic, even when he was in India, that he was in India much before India got its independence. And people would, urge him that, why don't you help us in getting freedom to the nation? And it was not Yogananda ji's mission in this particular lifetime, so he did not get into it. But such was his dynamism. So, renunciation is not very passive and okay, fine. It is dynamic. And now again, it's not even about what can't you give and what can you give. In terms of worldly things, it's not that now the criterion is only rich people become renunciate, or the criterion is so and so is a renunciate. A true renunciate is first at heart, later during the end. In fact, now, why at the end, I wanted to read something from this book, God Alone, which was written, which has letters from Sister Gyanamata, who was Yogananda ji's most advanced women disciple. And she writes something wonderful and beautiful about renunciation. It is 2 small paragraphs. I thought I'll read them to you and then we can share more. She talks about renunciation. She shares it with her sister disciples over here. She says, do not judge your fitness for sannyas by the things you know or can do. You might be letter perfect in the philosophical teachings, in the practice of the techniques. You might be able to stand before an audience and deliver a good lecture. You might be ready to instruct a class of students. Yet you might not be prepared for sannyas. And then she goes on to say, the test is whether or not there is a fire of devotion burning upon the altar of your heart. If there is, and if it burns steadily through joy and pain, through success and the gratification of your innocent wishes, and through denial and the frustration of your desires, you are ready right now. The rest can be acquired as you go along, for sisterhood is a state of constant striving for higher and higher perfection along all lines. So what does Sister Gyanamata says? She doesn't say you should have taken this vow and you should wear this color and you shouldn't do this and you should do this. One very important criterion: your heart should be burning. There must be fire in your heart with devotion to the Lord. And that is what true renunciation is. No matter what outward role you play, you might be filthy rich, you might have just basic necessities. But if in your heart you offer it all to God, and if you say, God, this is for you, then you're a true renunciate. And even if there is, let's say, a slight bit of attachment to this or that, but if your goal is that you want to give everything to God, like she says, everything can come along the way. But if you have that devotion, that burning desire for God, that is the only criterion for renunciation. And it is not that, there are strict, we live in, like Ramesh was saying about when Swamiji was playing the role of Henry, and it was the time of Kali Yuga, and now we are in ascending Dwapara Yuga, and now it's not about, do this, don't do this. It's more about, samadhi affirming, about the positive aspects. Be kind, like Ramesh was saying, harmonious, generous. That is how we share brotherhood, sisterhood, and that is how we prosper in our relationship with God and also in our relationship with one another. With that, I would pass it on to Ramesh.
Thank you, Vineet. I like that word, samadhi affirming, because the next quote I have decided is from the chapter An Experience in Cosmic Consciousness, where Paramahansa Yoganandaji describes his experience of samadhi. And this is a small section. I would actually rather read out the entire part from the autobiography of a yogi, where Paramahansa Yoganandaji asked Sri Yukteswar, when shall I find God? So let me read that out. It's interesting because the reason he's asking that question is for us. And this is after he had an experience of cosmic consciousness. One day, however, I took a problem to master. I want to know, sir, when shall I find God? Sri Yukteswarji said, you have found him. Oh, no, sir, I don't think so. My guru was smiling. I am sure you aren't expecting a venerable personage adorning a throne in some antiseptic corner of the cosmos. I see, however, that you are imagining that the possession of miraculous powers is the knowledge of God. One might have the whole universe and find the Lord elusive still. Spiritual advancement is not measured by one's outward powers, but only by the depth of his bliss in meditation. Sri Yukteswarji continues, ever new joy is God. He is inexhaustible as you continue your meditations during the years. He will beguile you with infinite ingenuity. Devotees like yourself, he is referring to Paramahansa Yoganandaji, who had found a way to God, never dream of exchanging him for any other happiness. He is seductive beyond the thought of competition. I like that thought. He's like that sentence. He's seductive beyond the thought of competition. Now, what makes something seductive? We can't lose sight of it. And that's how the great masters describe God, not as something you can philosophically make complex and complicated, something which you get bored of basically. But he was saying he's seductive and the thought of competition. And he said God is ever new joy. Why did he say that? Because if you might have experienced in times of peace and centeredness, you feel joyful. There's a certain stillness to it. And Paramahansa Yoganandaji also used to say about meditation in general that once you start having a taste of fresh cheese, you lose interest in stale cheese. Similarly, with respect to worldly desires, if you even meditate a little bit and have that experience of peace, you will lose sight of restlessness. You will lose interest in, say, stale cheese, entertainment, uh, l- not so uplifting music. And there are some points that masters encourage us to aim high right there. For those who have got Kriya Yoga, Paramahansa Yogananda ji used to say, with Kriya Yoga, one should expect to be at least a Jivan Mukta in this lifetime. A Jivan Mukta is a person who has attained the consciousness of egolessness. They are basically united with the complete oneness. And how do we do that? We are in the beginning of December. At Ananda, throughout Ananda, in December, we celebrate Christmas in two ways, spiritually and socially. And the spiritual Christmas we celebrate, which was a tradition started by Yogananda ji in 1936, we all have a day where we have a meditation which lasts 8 hours. And it's not with the time as much, but we honor what Christ gave us in the form of what we need to seek you first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things shall be added unto you. Paramahansa Yogananda ji encouraged people to give out that effort, to put out that energy, to seek out the highest aims. Even if it's difficult to meditate, even if your mind is restless and you are unable to concentrate, God is no tyrant. He watches the heart. If your heart is at the right place, if you have the right sincerity, He won't let you down. If you take one step towards God, God takes 1,000 steps towards you. And God is always with us. Even if we can't see it physically, even if we can't think about it. Master said, God is just behind the thoughts with which you think them. He is more near than you even imagine. He's just behind your every word. He's just behind your every sight. And also, there is a story which Nayasami Devi ji recently said about a dream which one of the members in Ananda village, Dr. Peter, had. In the dream, he saw a huge hill of sand and mud, and for him, it symbolized his karma which he had to work out. And the tools which he had was a small bucket and a small shovel. So he started working on it, like one shovel in the bucket, and he was trying to clear out his karma. And it seemed like it would take eternity to do that. But as he went round that hill, he saw Yogananda in a tractor taking out pockets full of that mud out, and he was clearing your karma. So you see, that's the guru disciple relationship. Even if you feel your efforts are insignificant, you are not getting anywhere, you have your guru's grace and you don't know how much he's helping you get rid of many different things. One of the disciples, Devi Mukherjee, I don't know exactly what he said, but he was asking Paramahansa Yogananda ji, please, Master, bless me. And Master said, don't even ask that. You don't know how much I'm blessing you. And we actually don't know how much the gurus are blessing us. And it's really a blessing to have even, you can say, a glimpse of the writings of such a guru. It is said, one moment in the company of a saint can be a raft through the ocean of delusion. So, with that, do make the effort, persevere, be sincere, and it's okay always. Your God is with you, Guru is with you, love God. Because Paramahansa Yogananda ji used to say, when I'm gone, only love can take my place. With that, I will move to Vinit.
Thank you, Ramesh. We have a few minutes. I would like to just read two quotes, and they are both on renunciation, and they are from the book Autobiography, of course. So the first one is, he who discards his worldly duties can justify himself only by assuming some kind of responsibility toward a much larger family. And the second one is, I have left, this is from Bhaduri Mahashay, and he says, when someone was telling him that, you're a renunciate, you've renounced so much in life, and you had such wealth before. So he says, I have left a few paltry rupees, a few petty pleasures, for a cosmic empire of endless bliss. How then have I denied myself anything? I know the joy of sharing the treasure. Is that a sacrifice? The short sighted worldly folk are verily the real renunciates. They relinquish an unparalleled divine possession for a poor handful of earthly toys. Now, just speaking about the first one, which talks about denying your worldly duties, and first time when I came, when I started meditating and learned properly how to meditate, and I was like, I'm a yogi now. It doesn't matter what happens around me. I don't care. Well, it didn't take me too long, I should say you this attitude, but we should realize that the more we have this ability to withdraw our energy and offer it to the divine, it is not that a renunciate becomes indifferent or a yogi becomes indifferent to the sorrows, like Ramesh was saying, sympathy, smiling to a person who's sad on the road, or anything like that. In fact, a yogi, a true renunciate, can feel as much compassion for someone who's suffering for something as he would when something happens to himself. Let's say, you're not feeling well, you might feel the same amount of compassion when you see someone who's not feeling well, because you then find no difference because you have expanded your ego to everyone. And of course it is in stages, it is directional. Of course it is, one good start itself would be at least like looking at it ha 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 and not laughing at someone who's suffering, but rather having that compassion. And slowly as we develop more, as we go deeper in our meditations, we can actually feel the vibration of the people around us, and we can even try to help them if they are receptive to us. Or sometimes it may not even be words, it can just be a glance, and we can help people. So it is not really denying your duties, that okay, if only I had the time to meditate and leave everything in my life. Well, in the autobiography of a yogi, Yogananda ji says that a householder yogi path is higher, can be higher, I'm paraphrasing, these are not the exact words, than that of a renunciate, a Swami, provided the householder fulfills all his or her duties in a non attached manner. In other words, offering it all to the divine. If you do all your duties during the day, during your lifetime, it is not very important for a renunciate to give things outwardly. Like Bhaduri Mahashay says that I've just given a few paltry things here and there. And similarly, you might have possessions outside, but in your heart, you are very free. You just know it is all God's. Just to end with a story, how true renunciation is, I would like to share a story of Swami Kriyananda. And many of you would know about him, but he was the founder of Ananda Sangha, and he had made this beautiful temple over there, in Ananda village, and the temple got fire. And you might think one might be disappointed when when something so beautifully you have made with so much love and care, with so much effort, and the next day after the burning of the temple, um, or was it the temple? In any case, he just walked into a store and he was whistling, and the shopkeeper said, "You're whistling? Didn't your temple just burn down?" And he said, yeah, but I didn't lose my voice. And so, in other words, the joy is inside you. And at other moments, he was just, when something similar happened, he was just meditating, and he said, oh, what joy, what joy. I offered this temple to you. I made this temple for you, God, and you took away this temple. And I'm feeling so much joy. And if I'm feeling so much joy by just one temple you've taken away, why don't you just take everything away from me? And I can feel more and more divine bliss. So let us, during the days as we go in our spiritual path, try to take just one little thing and try to just put it in practice. And a lot can change by just doing a little change in our day to day life and in our practices. We thank you, and we were very happy to share with you here from Khandala at our monastery. And we look forward to seeing you the week after this next week, the Friday again, at the same time. Thank you. Joy to you.